We are joined by the newly elected mayor. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mayor, and congratulations on your election. What does this mean for the people of Nelson Mandela Bay, your election?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the congratulations. The people of Nelson Mandela Bay have been experiencing a couple of crises of late. We have a drought crisis, we have an electricity crisis, and thirdly, we have a crisis which nobody really talks about. That's the crisis called gangsterism, drugs, and the killings in our areas, in the townships and in the northern areas. And something that's not getting reported on is, for example, is that the fact that from the 1st of January this year till last week, we had just over 90 murders, gang-related murders, in the northern areas alone. Then 2 months ago, New Brighton was, for example, declared the murder capital of the Eastern Cape. So we've got a serious crime issue in our metro. Coupled with that, we've got the fourth crisis that we actually have is the crisis regarding money being sent back, money not being spent in terms of our budget, and that's something that needs my urgent attention as well as that of Budget and Treasury and the team as well.
So do you have an idea as to what kind of plan you'd like to see on the table to resolve not just this issue of gangsterism, but the energy crisis as well?
Yes, I'm meeting an expert on Monday evening, where we've got the electricity mitigation meeting as such, and we do have a strategy in place already to mitigate the electricity strategy crisis. And by Wednesday, Thursday, we'll be able to elaborate on it more. The gentleman that I need to speak to is somebody who's an expert, serves on the President's forum regarding this crisis, and he'll be in the metro to speak to myself as well as the Department of Electricity and Energy.
Yeah. You are the third mayor of this Eastern Cape Metro since, the 2021 local government elections, and some are wondering, how long are you going to last?
Only time will tell, but I can tell you this much. There's a commitment from all, I think we are 6 parties in this coalition. We are 62 at present. We know of other parties that would like to join this coalition. I'm about to go into a meeting right now to discuss the possibility of that. If you look at the numbers who voted for myself, I received 64 votes, although only 62 councillors signed the petition for the meeting to take place. So the parties need to come out openly, those councillors who signed it. We have an idea of who it could be, but we don't want to speculate. But these parties need to come out and say they do support this coalition, and then we can talk about it. But I've got a I'm very, very confident that this coalition will last till the next local government elections, which we think would be towards the end of 2026 and beginning of 2027.
This instability, Mayor, hasn't served the residents of Nelson Mandela Bay. What do you think have been the consequences of the constant changes since 2021?
First, we need to look at the causes of the instability. The causes of the instability is smaller parties being treated like they really are the big brother mentality of the bigger parties, like the ANC and the DA previously. The ANC treated the Northern Alliance like they were the big brother. There was 4 months that they kicked us out of council for 4 months, for example. When we went to the DA, we, as the Northern Alliance, of which I'm president of, ensured that this coalition with the DA could come about. Sadly, the promises made at the beginning of our negotiations and when we came into government, everything was fine. But then the DA took the bulk of all the service delivery directorates. We begged since last year, September, up until 2 months ago. And we said, no more, we can't keep begging. It's 7-8 months into the coalition. And it was only during the last week that the DA came with a proposal to say, okay, we'll give you a service delivery directorate. In the meantime, we've been in court. They've taken us to court. They tried to bankrupt us. They badmouthed us in public as a coalition partner, and hence the relationship broke down irretrievably, and therefore we decided to sign this petition for the removal of the mayor. The consequences thereof is that, look, I've spoken to the mayor, that Retief Odendaal came to me with his chief of staff, and they said that they would like to see us continue the work that they've been doing. So we'll certainly be looking at what it is that they have been doing, but with a focus more on the northern areas and the townships, which have certainly been neglected. I can tell you this much, that in the western suburbs, everything is hunky-dory. The one crisis that affects the western suburbs, though, is the electricity crisis. But when it comes to the gangsterism, poverty, water leaks, potholes, I encourage you with your team to come and have a look at what it is. I'll take you on a tour of the townships and the northern areas to see the squalor that our residents are living in.
When do you plan on appointing members of the executive? Have you had discussions with coalition partners about that?
I'm going into that meeting at 3. I think it's almost 3. I'm going to that meeting right now, and then we will be sitting around the table to discuss. Look, we're 99% there. We just need to sort out 1 or 2 directorates, and then we're done. I don't want to divulge too much information because, if you move one person into one directorate and the other one has to move, it changes the whole picture completely. But like I said, we really are 99% there. And the commitment given by all the parties involved in this coalition, the commitment that they gave is that we are not going to let this coalition collapse because of positions. And that is why we were able to get over the line with so much confidence. The mayor, the speaker got 62 votes. The mayor got 64 votes, and they declined the rest to oppose the rest of the positions, which is the deputy mayor and the chief whip. So yes, the rest of the mayoral committee, we will finalize it probably by tomorrow evening, and hopefully by Monday, Tuesday, we'll make an announcement.
Let me ask you what your views are about the criticism that some people have when it comes to these agreements that the so-called bigger parties, the ANC and EFF, have in the metros. You look at Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, the position they've taken is we've got to involve the smaller parties and give an opportunity to some of these smaller parties to run these metros and take the position of mayor. But when you look closely, members of the executives are divided between mostly the the ANC and the EFF. So how much power as mayor are you going to have to implement your strategy? And I understand it's a strategy you work on with the entire coalition, but do you think you'll have much power, and how do you respond to the criticism that most of the mayors from these small parties who are being elected are, quote unquote, puppets for the ANC and the EFF?
I think the operative word that you used now in your question was the word power. Look, our country is very new to coalitions, and the best way to manage these coalitions is to consult. Now, that is the problem we've had in our metro. Let me give you an example for what happened here in this metro. When the DA took over, we had negotiations right up until the day before council, and we only heard the day after council that the mayor has now made himself after we voted in the DA, the mayor made himself a super councillor. Why do I say super councillor? The mayor then decided that he will now be a mayor with, and added to that, he'd be the MMC for budget and treasury. What the mayor did further to that was that in the speaker's office, I was the previous speaker, and what the mayor did was to remove constituency services from the speaker's office. Now, bear in mind what I said earlier, that we only had the one portfolio, which was speaker. So what the mayor did further was to remove constituency services, and then he made one of the DA councillors an MMC of constituency services. Yeah. Now that you're asking for trouble. That's asking for trouble. Nobody talks about it. What happened? We allowed him to do it because he said he needed space. His own party was unhappy. We said, Executive Mayor, we allow you the space to sort this out internally, but remember, you need to come back to this coalition and correct the wrongs. Yeah. That has never happened. He had a reshuffle of the mayoral committee, and strangely enough, he still didn't ensure that the Northern Alliance, of which I'm president, like I said earlier, did not get a service delivery directorate. Hence the criticism from our constituency in the northern areas that the Northern Alliance is not ensuring service delivery in the northern areas. And hence we decided we need to move. And I can guarantee you in the new coalition, we will have a service delivery directorate. And if I can drop it here, is that it will certainly involve the safety of our constituency where all the murders are taking place.
How are you planning to deal with challenges around the water issues in the metro?
Look, thanks for asking that question. This afternoon, I'm planning on calling in the acting ED of Safety and Security number 1. We're expecting a mini flood or a full flood come Monday, Tuesday. I can tell you this much, that as at today, our dam levels are at 20%, which gives us a reserve of more than 200 days approximately. And so we're able to push back day zero by quite a number of days because of one thing and one thing only, because of the rain. We need rain. We desperately need rain. But we also have the Nooit Gedag water scheme, and a lot of attention will go into that. There was a lot of criticism against the Department of Infrastructure, Water and Infrastructure Sanitation. Why is there not enough water coming through that scheme? And I'll certainly investigate why that is not the case, why we're not receiving enough water.
All right, Gary van Niekerk, thank you so much for making time for us.